when the king began the reckoning, one was brought him who owed him 10,000 talents. Now that is a colossal sum. We're talking about the equivalent of a millionaire. Then, when he's pleaded and obtains what he wants, he meets this other fellow servant who owes him a certain number of denarii. Now, the denarius is what is gained in a dies, a day's work. It's slightly less. And yet he's the one who really has no mercy. Translate. And ourselves? St. Margaret Mary Alacoque, of whom we think actually on this day, because it is the memorial of the founders of the Visitation Nuns, St. Jeanne-Françoise de Chantal. She was at one point given to a slight thought of vainglory in her soul, and she was immediately shown the ugliness of her soul as God saw it, and as a consequence she had a profound awareness of her nothingness. And in her writings we find that when she was alone, the only position that she could take was that of being prostrate. She had an awareness of the crushing weight of glorious divine majesty and of her own nothingness. And any thought of vainglory or spiritual pride just couldn't exist after what she'd seen of the state of her own soul as God saw it. And we? There is a very good testimony out there by someone who saw things in a different way after his clinical death, where he was actually dying and he was seeing things, and then it did peter out. It's Ian McCormack, who was bitten by jellyfish, and he knew he was dying, he knew what that meant, and he was asking for help. He wanted someone to take him to some kind of hospital, and this gentleman wouldn't help. And he said in his mind, "Brother, if I get out of this alive, you are history." So he was dying, and as his soul was leaving his body, he was given things to see and understand. And at one point, something in him said to try and scramble for some bit of prayer that he might know. So in his mental archives, he tried to remember the Our Father, which he'd learned as a child. And on he went, and eventually he got to the clause, "As we forgive those who trespass against us," and immediately popped up before him this gentleman, I think he was Chinese, who hadn't wanted to help him when he was dying. And the voice came, and this one, and his mental voice was, well, it hadn't actually been on my program, and he was still standing before him in his mind's eye, and wouldn't go away until in his heart, of which the Lord speaks in the Gospel, he forgave, and then he was able to pray on, and eventually he was given a second chance, and never was his life again the same. He now goes round giving his testimony. Ian McCormack, it's a very good one on YouTube. But the Lord does say, "So also my Heavenly Father will do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother," that's interesting, your brother, "from your heart." Our common humanity, our common misery, our common need for redemption. If one talks to people and listens to what they have to say, one sees very often that this question is lurking there somewhere in their soul: unforgiveness. It's not easy because one might forgive, but then humanly speaking the reactions aren't spontaneous. If one meets the person, how does one handle that? And then alone, how does one handle memories of bullying and bad treatment, insults, bad words? They still come to the mind. It is a grace, however, to be asked for, because if we don't seek it, we go a notch lower and end up playing the game of the one who wishes us harm. We have mental games of vendetta. So we're actually on the same level as that person. And that person has come by osmosis into our soul and has enthroned himself there. He is reigning upon us because we've given him that throne. When alone, he's there. We're thinking of him. This can act as a cancer on the soul and lead to bitterness and hardness of heart. And the Lord, in the Our Father, in the two versions of it that have come down to us, has insisted on this as we forgive. In the version in St. Matthew, it's debts, so they apply as well. By the way, if one goes into the beyond with heavy debts, it can be a problem in purgatory until they're sorted. It's kind of important that we don't forget that debts have to be paid. And by the way, it has been known that if masses have not been said, the souls in question can appear and ask that they be said. I know one or two cases here and there where that's the case. A priest was in his sitting room one day, and this departed soul appeared to him and said, "Look there." And he followed the instruction and found a whole mass book of intentions never fulfilled by a previous priest, and they had to be fulfilled. There's a debt, therefore, of holy things as well. I conclude, we are free if we let go of this burden of unforgiveness. We are not if we don't. Questo Vangelo si applica a noi quando siamo maltrattati. Umanamente la tendenza è di avere pensieri di vendetta e di non perdono. Allora siamo noi contaminati dall'anima negativa che ci ha fatto del male. Ruminando il male fatto, siamo noi stessi ridotti al suo livello. È un cancro la mancanza di perdono. Questa festa ci colloca a un ambiente molto superiore con il Sacro Cuore, perché il Sacro Cuore si è manifestato alla famiglia delle Visitandine fondata da questa santa, Giovanna Francesca Chantal, insieme con San Francesco di Sales. E il Sacro Cuore è un fuoco, e in questo fuoco non c'è posto per questo cancro di durezza del cuore. È una grazia da impetrare, un cuore libero che davvero, come dice il Signore, di cuore perdona il suo fratello. E sa perché? È perché noi siamo tutti miseri, come questo schiavo. Abbiamo tutti bisogno di misericordia e non dare quella misericordia agli altri è un invito a non ricevere neanche noi. Obe caritas et amor, obe caritas Deus ibies, obe caritas et amor.